Ethan Carter lay sprawled across his bed, the morning light filtering through the curtains, casting a warm glow over his room. The walls were adorned with posters of iconic rock bands, and scattered around were musical instruments, his guitar leaning against the dresser, a keyboard tucked into the corner, and sheets of music crumpled on the floor. The air was thick with the scent of unmade dreams and lingering melodies. In his dreams, Ethan was lost in a world where music reigned supreme. He could feel the rhythm pulsing through him as he played to an audience that cheered for him. Each note he strummed resonated with the energy of 1,000 hearts, and he felt invincible. But as the sun climbed higher in the sky, reality began to seep into his consciousness. A soft creak broke through the silence, pulling Ethan from his reverie. He stirred slightly but didn't fully wake up. The door to his room opened quietly, and in walked Liam, his older brother. Liam was always the responsible one, grounded and practical, a stark contrast to Ethan's free-spirited nature. Today, he wore a casual t-shirt and jeans, his hair slightly tousled as if he had just rolled out of bed himself. Liam paused for a moment, taking in the sight of Ethan sleeping peacefully. A fond smile tugged at his lips. He often marveled at how different they were yet how close they remained. Ethan was a dreamer, often lost in thoughts of music and adventure, while Liam was more focused on stability and planning for the future. "Hey, sleepyhead," Liam said softly, nudging Ethan's shoulder gently. "It's almost noon. You're going to miss breakfast." Ethan groaned, rolling over to bury his face in the pillow. "5 more minutes," he mumbled, half asleep. Liam chuckled, shaking his head. "You said that an hour ago." He moved closer, sitting on the edge of Ethan's bed. "Seriously though, you need to get up. We have plans today." "Plans?" Ethan finally cracked an eye open, blinking against the light. "What plans?" "Remember, we're meeting Sophie at that new cafe downtown," Liam reminded him. Ethan's heart skipped a beat at the mention of Sophie's name. She was not just a friend, she was someone who brought excitement into his life, a whirlwind of laughter and spontaneity that made every moment feel alive. He sat up abruptly, suddenly wide awake. "Oh right, I can't believe I almost forgot." Ethan sprang out of bed and began rummaging through his clothes scattered across the floor. Liam watched with amusement as Ethan hurriedly pulled on a shirt that was wrinkled but comfortable enough for a casual outing. "You know you could set an alarm or something," Liam suggested with a smirk. "Alarms are for people who don't dream," Ethan replied playfully as he brushed his hair back with his fingers. Once dressed, Ethan rushed past Liam toward the bathroom to splash some water on his face. As he looked into the mirror, he couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement at the thought of seeing Sophie. They had been friends for years, but lately, there had been moments, fleeting glances and shared laughter, that hinted at something deeper. After quickly brushing his teeth and throwing on some cologne, Ethan re-emerged from the bathroom with renewed energy. Liam was waiting for him by the door, arms crossed and an eyebrow raised. "Finally. Let's go before she thinks we've abandoned her," Liam said, leading the way out of their apartment. As they stepped into the bright San Francisco sun, Ethan felt a rush of anticipation mixed with nervousness. The city buzzed around them, cars honking, people chatting on sidewalks, street performers showcasing their talents, and it all felt electric. They walked side by side down the bustling streets toward their favorite cafe. Ethan couldn't shake off the feeling that today would be different somehow, that maybe today would bring clarity to his feelings for Sophie or reveal something unexpected about himself or Liam. As they approached the cafe's entrance, Ethan took a deep breath to steady himself. He glanced at Liam and saw a look of determination on his brother's face, a look that told him Liam was ready for anything that might come their way today. "Ready?" Liam asked as they pushed open the door to the cafe. Ethan nodded slowly but confidently. "Yeah, let's do this." They stepped inside where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped them like a warm embrace. The sound of laughter and chatter filled the air as they scanned the room for Sophie. And just like that, with every heartbeat echoing in anticipation of what lay ahead, their day began, a day filled with possibilities that could change everything. The cafe buzzed with life, an inviting blend of laughter, clinking cups, and the rich aroma of coffee wafting through the air. Ethan stepped inside, his heart racing with a mix of excitement and nerves. He scanned the room, searching for Sophie. She was already seated at a cozy corner table, her vibrant smile lighting up the space around her. "Over here." Sophie waved enthusiastically, her long hair cascading over her shoulders as she leaned forward. She wore a bright yellow sundress that matched her cheerful demeanor, and Ethan couldn't help but feel a warmth spread through him at the sight of her. Liam nudged Ethan playfully. "Looks like someone's happy to see you," he teased, but Ethan was too focused on Sophie to respond. "Hey," Ethan called out as he made his way to the table, a grin spreading across his face. "Sorry we're late." "No worries. I just got here myself," Sophie replied, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I ordered us some pastries. You have to try the almond croissants, they're amazing." Ethan slid into the seat across from her, feeling a flutter in his stomach as their eyes met. "You always know how to pick the best places," he said, genuinely impressed. As they chatted about their favorite bands and upcoming concerts, Ethan felt a sense of ease wash over him. Sophie had an infectious energy that made everything feel lighter. Liam sat back, observing them with an amused expression, sipping his coffee while occasionally chiming in with witty remarks. "So, Ethan," Sophie said with a playful glint in her eye, "are you still working on that song you mentioned last week? The one about chasing dreams?" Ethan felt a rush of pride at her interest. "Yeah, it's coming along. I'm trying to capture that feeling of freedom, like when you're on stage and everything just clicks." "That sounds incredible. You should let me hear it when it's ready," she encouraged, leaning forward slightly as if she were hanging on his every word. "Definitely," he promised, feeling a surge of inspiration just from talking about it. The way she believed in him fueled his passion even more. As they continued to talk and laugh, Ethan noticed Liam subtly shifting in his seat. There was something in his brother's expression, a mix of protectiveness and contemplation, that piqued Ethan's curiosity. Liam had always been the one to keep things grounded between them. He often played the role of the older brother who looked out for Ethan's well-being. Just then, Jake entered the cafe, his easygoing demeanor instantly drawing attention. He spotted Liam and waved enthusiastically before making his way over. "Hey guys. Sorry I'm late, traffic was a nightmare," Jake said as he slid into the seat next to Liam. "Good to see you," Liam replied, relief washing over him as Jake joined them. Sophie greeted Jake warmly, and for a moment, the conversation flowed effortlessly among all four of them. They shared stories and jokes, creating an atmosphere filled with camaraderie. But beneath the surface, Ethan sensed an undercurrent of tension between Liam and Jake, a subtle dance of glances and unspoken words that hinted at something deeper. As they wrapped up their pastries and coffee, Sophie suggested they take a walk along the waterfront. "It's such a beautiful day. We can enjoy the view and maybe find some street performers," she proposed excitedly. Ethan exchanged glances with Liam and Jake before nodding enthusiastically. "That sounds perfect." They all stood up and made their way outside into the sunshine. The warm breeze tousled Ethan's hair as they walked along the pier, laughter echoing around them like music. The vibrant colors of boats bobbing in the water created a picturesque backdrop for their day together. As they strolled side by side with Sophie on one side and Jake on the other, Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of happiness mixed with anxiety. He couldn't shake off the feeling that something significant was brewing beneath their casual conversations, the kind of shift that could alter everything. They reached an open area where street performers showcased their talents, a juggler tossing colorful balls into the air and a musician strumming a guitar while singing soulful melodies. The atmosphere was electric, filled with creativity and passion, just like Ethan dreamed of being one day. "Let's take a picture," Sophie suggested suddenly, pulling out her phone. She turned to face them all with an infectious smile that made Ethan's heart skip a beat. They gathered close together for the photo, Ethan standing beside Sophie while Liam and Jake flanked them on either side. As Sophie counted down for the shot, Ethan felt an unexpected rush of warmth as she leaned slightly against him for balance. "Say cheese," Sophie exclaimed just as the camera clicked. In that moment, time seemed to freeze. Ethan caught Liam's gaze over Sophie's shoulder, a fleeting look filled with something unspoken that made Ethan's heart race even faster. What was happening? Why did it feel like there was more beneath their playful banter? As they moved away from each other after the picture was taken, Ethan couldn't shake off that lingering connection he felt with both Sophie and Liam, two people who meant so much to him but whose feelings seemed tangled in ways he didn't fully understand yet. The day continued with laughter and exploration along the waterfront until they finally decided to head back home as the sun began to set behind them, a golden hue painting the sky in breathtaking colors. Ethan walked beside Sophie while Liam chatted animatedly with Jake ahead of them. He stole glances at both of them, Sophie radiating joy and Liam wearing an expression that hinted at deeper thoughts swirling in his mind. As they reached their apartment building, Ethan knew this day would linger in his memory long after it ended, a day filled with laughter but also hints of something more profound waiting just beneath the surface. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city as Ethan stepped into the warmth of their apartment. The familiar scent of coffee lingered in the air, a comforting reminder of the day's adventures. Liam was already in the kitchen, rinsing out mugs and humming softly to himself, a tune that Ethan recognized from one of his favorite bands. "Hey, how was your day?" Liam asked without turning around, his voice casual but laced with an underlying curiosity. "It was great. Sophie was amazing, as always," Ethan replied, trying to keep his tone light. He didn't want to reveal just how much he had enjoyed being with her, or how much he had felt Liam's presence throughout the day. "Did you two have fun at the cafe?" Liam asked, finally turning to face him. There was a glimmer in his eyes that made Ethan wonder what he was really asking. "Yeah, we did. She's really passionate about music and art," Ethan said, leaning against the counter. "I think she might even come to my next gig." Liam nodded, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "That's cool. You should definitely let her hear your new song when it's ready." Ethan felt a rush of gratitude for his brother's support. "I will. I just need to finish it first." He paused for a moment, contemplating whether to share more about his feelings for Sophie. But something held him back, an instinct telling him that this was a conversation better saved for later. As they settled into their evening routine, Ethan found himself lost in thought. The laughter from earlier echoed in his mind, the way Sophie's eyes sparkled when she talked about her dreams and how effortlessly they connected. But alongside that joy was an unsettling feeling he couldn't quite shake off. It was as if there were unspoken words lingering in the air between him and Liam. After dinner, they retreated to the living room, where Liam plopped down on the couch with a sigh of contentment. "Want to watch something? Or we could listen to some music," he suggested, grabbing the remote. "Music sounds good," Ethan replied eagerly. He loved sharing playlists with Liam, it felt like a way to connect beyond their usual brotherly banter. Liam navigated through their collection and settled on an acoustic playlist filled with soft melodies and heartfelt lyrics. As the first song began to play, Ethan leaned back against the couch, letting the music wash over him. "Do you ever think about what it would be like if we pursued our dreams full-time?" Ethan asked suddenly, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them. Liam paused for a moment before responding. "All the time," he admitted. "But I think it's important to have a backup plan too." His tone was practical, but Ethan sensed an underlying longing in his brother's words. "What if we didn't have to choose? What if we could just go for it?" Ethan pressed, feeling emboldened by the music filling the room. Liam turned his gaze toward him, a serious expression crossing his face. "It's not that simple, Ethan. Life isn't just about chasing dreams, it's about responsibility too." Ethan felt frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "I know that. But what if chasing those dreams is what makes us truly happy? What if we're missing out on something incredible because we're too afraid?" Liam sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair as if trying to find the right words. "I get where you're coming from. I really do. But sometimes I worry about you, about getting hurt or disappointed." Ethan felt his heart race at those words. "You don't have to worry about me all the time. I can take care of myself." "I know you can," Liam replied softly, his eyes searching Ethan's face for understanding. "But you're my little brother. It's hard not to worry." In that moment, their eyes locked, and Ethan sensed a shift in their dynamic, a deeper understanding forming between them. It was more than just brotherly concern, it was a glimpse into Liam's own fears and aspirations. "Do you ever think about what you want?" Ethan asked gently. Liam hesitated before answering. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing enough, if I'm being true to myself." His voice trailed off as he looked away, lost in thought. Ethan felt a pang of empathy for his brother. They were both navigating uncharted waters, Ethan with his dreams of music and Liam with his desire for stability and fulfillment. Just then, there was a knock at the door that broke their introspective moment. Both brothers exchanged glances before Liam got up to answer it. When he opened the door, Sophie stood there with an excited grin on her face, her hair dancing in the evening breeze. "Hey, I hope I'm not interrupting anything," she said breathlessly. Ethan's heart leapt at her unexpected arrival. "Not at all. We were just listening to some music," he said quickly, trying to mask his surprise with enthusiasm. "Perfect. I brought some snacks," Sophie declared as she stepped inside, holding up a bag filled with homemade cookies. As she settled onto the couch beside Ethan, he felt an electric charge in the air, a mix of excitement and nervousness that enveloped them both. Liam returned to join them but remained quiet as Sophie began sharing stories from her day. Ethan listened intently as she animatedly recounted her latest art project and her plans for upcoming exhibitions. He admired how passionate she was about her craft. It reminded him of why he enjoyed being around her so much. But amidst Sophie's laughter and stories, Ethan couldn't ignore the subtle glances exchanged between Liam and Jake when they thought no one was watching, an unspoken connection that hinted at something brewing beneath their friendly banter. As they shared cookies and laughter late into the evening, Ethan realized that this moment, this blend of friendship and uncharted emotions, was only just beginning to unfold. He felt both exhilarated and apprehensive about where these tangled feelings might lead them all. The night wore on with music playing softly in the background as they talked and laughed together, a perfect blend of camaraderie and budding romance that left Ethan wondering what tomorrow might bring. The following weekend arrived with a vibrant energy that seemed to pulse through the streets of San Francisco. Ethan awoke to the sound of birds chirping outside his window, sunlight streaming in and illuminating his room like a stage set for a performance. Today was the day of Jake's party, an event that had been the talk of the week among their friends. Ethan jumped out of bed, excitement coursing through him. He quickly showered and dressed, opting for a casual yet stylish look, fitted jeans and a vintage band t-shirt that he knew Sophie would appreciate. As he styled his hair in front of the mirror, he couldn't help but think about her. Would she be there? Would they have a chance to talk more? The anticipation made his heart race. Liam was already in the kitchen when Ethan emerged, sipping coffee and scrolling through his phone. "You look ready to rock," Liam remarked with a grin, glancing up at Ethan. "Thanks. Are you excited for tonight?" Ethan asked, trying to gauge Liam's mood. He noticed that his brother seemed slightly distracted, lost in thought. "Yeah, should be fun," Liam replied, but Ethan could sense a hint of apprehension in his tone. "Everything okay?" Ethan pressed, concern creeping into his voice. Liam shrugged, setting his phone down. "Just thinking about how many people are going to be there. You know how parties can get." Ethan nodded, understanding the unspoken weight behind Liam's words. He knew that parties often brought out not just joy but also insecurities and tensions among friends. "It'll be fine. Just relax and have fun." As the evening approached, Ethan felt a mix of excitement and nerves bubbling inside him. He had been looking forward to this party all week, not just for the chance to hang out with friends but also for the opportunity to spend time with Sophie outside their usual cafe setting. When they arrived at Jake's apartment, the music was already thumping through the door, and laughter spilled out into the hallway. As they stepped inside, Ethan was greeted by a wave of warmth and energy. The living room was packed with people, friends mingling, drinks in hand, and colorful lights dancing across the walls. Jake spotted them immediately and waved them over. "You made it. Come on in," he called out, his voice booming over the music. Ethan felt a rush of adrenaline as they navigated through the crowd. He caught glimpses of familiar faces, friends from college and high school alike, each one adding to the vibrant atmosphere. Sophie appeared just as they reached the center of the room, her smile lighting up the space around her. She wore a flowy dress that swayed with her movements, and Ethan felt his heart skip at the sight of her. "Hey, I'm so glad you guys are here," she exclaimed, wrapping her arms around Ethan in an enthusiastic hug before turning to Liam. "And you too, Liam. Wouldn't miss it," Liam replied warmly as he returned her hug. Ethan felt an electric thrill as he pulled away from Sophie's embrace. "What have you been up to?" he asked, eager to dive into conversation amidst the lively atmosphere. "Oh, just getting ready for this party. I brought some games we can play later," she said with a mischievous grin. "Games? Count me in," Ethan replied enthusiastically. As they mingled with friends and enjoyed drinks together, Ethan felt more at ease than ever. The music pulsed around them like a heartbeat, drawing everyone into its rhythm. Laughter erupted frequently as jokes were shared and stories were told. But amidst all this joy, Ethan couldn't shake off a feeling of tension building between Liam and Jake. They exchanged glances that lingered just a moment too long, an unspoken connection that hinted at something deeper than friendship. As the night progressed, Sophie suggested they play a game called Truth or Dare. The group gathered in a circle on the floor, laughter echoing off the walls as they settled in for some lighthearted fun. "Okay, I'll go first," Sophie declared confidently as she spun an empty bottle in the center of their circle. It slowed down before pointing directly at Jake. "Truth or dare?" she asked playfully. Jake smirked, leaning back against his hands. "Dare. I dare you to sing your favorite song right now," Sophie challenged with a gleam in her eye. The group erupted into cheers as Jake stood up dramatically and began belting out an off-key rendition of a popular pop song. Laughter filled the room as everyone joined in clapping along to his performance. Once Jake finished with exaggerated flair, it was Ethan's turn next. He felt butterflies in his stomach as he spun the bottle again. It landed on Sophie this time. "Truth or dare?" he asked nervously but excitedly. Sophie grinned mischievously. "Dare." Ethan thought for a moment before grinning back at her. "I dare you to give me your best dance move right here." The room erupted into cheers again as Sophie stood up confidently and began dancing with abandon, her movements carefree and infectious. Ethan couldn't help but laugh along with everyone else, her energy was captivating. As Sophie danced, Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of joy wash over him, a realization that moments like these were what life was all about. Laughter shared among friends and connections deepening through playful challenges. After several rounds filled with laughter and silly dares, it was finally Liam's turn again. The bottle spun slowly before landing on Jake once more, an outcome that seemed almost fated at this point. "Truth or dare?" Liam asked casually but with an intensity that caught everyone's attention. Jake smirked again but this time hesitated before answering. "Dare." Liam leaned forward slightly as if considering something serious before finally saying, "I dare you to tell us your biggest secret." The room fell silent as everyone waited eagerly for Jake's response. There was something electric in the air, a tension that felt palpable among them all. Jake glanced around at their expectant faces before finally sighing dramatically. "All right, my biggest secret is," he paused for effect before continuing with mock seriousness, "I've had a crush on someone in this room for quite some time now." Gasps erupted from their friends as everyone leaned closer in anticipation. Jake looked directly at Liam as he added with a playful grin, "And I think it might be time for me to do something about it." Ethan's heart raced as he watched Liam's expression shift from surprise to something softer, something almost vulnerable, as their eyes met across the circle. In that moment, everything seemed to hang suspended in time, the laughter fading into silence as unspoken feelings hung heavily between them all. Ethan felt both exhilarated and anxious. He realized this party had turned into something far more significant than just fun. It was revealing layers of emotions that had been hidden beneath their playful banter all along. As Jake continued talking animatedly about taking risks and pursuing what makes them happy, Ethan couldn't help but wonder how this night would change everything. The friendships they had built and the feelings they had buried deep within themselves now bubbling to the surface like never before. The atmosphere in Jake's apartment shifted dramatically after Jake's bold confession. Laughter faded into a murmur of surprise and curiosity as everyone processed what had just been revealed. Ethan felt a knot tighten in his stomach, a mix of excitement and apprehension swirling within him. He glanced at Liam, whose expression had gone from shock to contemplation, his brow furrowing slightly as he absorbed Jake's words. Jake, oblivious to the tension he had created, continued speaking animatedly. "I mean, life is too short to hold back, right? We should all go for what we want." His enthusiasm was infectious, and some of the group began to cheer him on, urging him to take action. "Who is it?" someone shouted playfully from the back of the room. Jake grinned, clearly enjoying the attention. "I'm not telling. That's part of the fun." The playful banter resumed, but Ethan noticed Liam shift uncomfortably beside him. Ethan leaned closer to Liam, lowering his voice. "Are you okay?" he asked, concerned about how his brother was handling the situation. Liam nodded but didn't meet Ethan's gaze. "Yeah, just processing," he replied quietly. Ethan wanted to press further, but before he could say anything else, Sophie chimed in with her usual enthusiasm. "Okay, let's keep the game going. Who's next?" She spun the bottle again, and Ethan felt a rush of relief as the focus shifted away from Jake's revelation. The game continued with laughter and dares that grew increasingly outrageous, dancing on tables, singing embarrassing songs, and even a few silly impersonations. But beneath the surface of laughter and playful antics, Ethan could sense an undercurrent of tension that wouldn't dissipate so easily. As the night wore on and drinks were poured, Ethan found himself stepping outside onto the balcony for some fresh air. The cool breeze brushed against his skin as he leaned against the railing, staring out at the shimmering lights of the city below. He needed a moment to think, to process everything that had happened. A few moments later, Sophie joined him on the balcony. "Hey," she said softly, leaning against the railing beside him. "You okay?" Ethan turned to her, surprised by her concern. "Yeah, just a lot happening tonight," he admitted. "Tell me about it," she replied with a light laugh. "Jake really knows how to stir things up." Ethan chuckled but then grew serious. "What do you think about what he said? About having a crush on someone here?" Sophie shrugged, her expression thoughtful. "I think it takes guts to admit that kind of thing. It's scary to put yourself out there. Do you think it's easy for people to hide their feelings?" Ethan asked, his curiosity piqued. "Definitely," she replied earnestly. "Sometimes we're afraid of rejection or messing up what we already have with someone." Her eyes met his with an intensity that made his heart race. Ethan felt a wave of vulnerability wash over him. "I guess I've been thinking about that too," he confessed quietly. "About how easy it is to keep things bottled up." Sophie studied him for a moment before speaking again. "You know you can talk to me about anything, right? I'm here for you." Her words struck a chord deep within him. He wanted to share everything, the way he felt about her and how complicated things had become with Liam, but something held him back. The fear of ruining their friendship loomed large in his mind. Just then, Liam stepped outside onto the balcony as well, breaking the moment between them. He looked slightly disheveled but determined as he approached them. "Hey," Liam said casually but with an edge of seriousness in his tone. "Can we talk for a minute?" Ethan exchanged glances with Sophie before nodding slowly. "Sure." Liam led them away from the party noise and into a quieter corner of the balcony where they could speak privately. The city lights twinkled around them like stars in a vast sky. "I need to be honest," Liam began, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "About everything that's been happening tonight." Ethan felt his heart race again, he knew this moment was pivotal. "What do you mean?" he asked cautiously. "I've been feeling conflicted," Liam admitted, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "Jake's confession hit me harder than I expected." "Why?" Ethan asked gently. Liam took a deep breath before continuing. "Because I've been hiding my own feelings too, about you." Ethan felt as if the ground had shifted beneath him, everything around them faded into silence as those words hung in the air between them. "What do you mean?" Ethan asked softly, needing clarity on what Liam was saying. "I care about you more than just as my brother," Liam confessed, his voice trembling slightly with vulnerability. "I've always felt this connection between us, something deeper than brotherly love." Ethan's heart raced as realization washed over him. This was what had been lingering beneath their playful banter all along, a bond that transcended typical sibling relationships. "But, what does this mean?" Ethan stammered, grappling with emotions swirling inside him like a storm. "It means I'm scared," Liam admitted candidly. "Scared of losing what we have if I say something wrong or if you don't feel the same way." Ethan took a step closer to Liam, feeling an overwhelming urge to bridge that gap between them, an urge fueled by years of shared experiences and unspoken feelings that had finally come to light. "I don't want to lose you either," Ethan said softly but firmly. "But I also don't want us to hide who we are anymore." Liam looked at him with wide eyes filled with hope and uncertainty, a mixture that mirrored Ethan's own feelings perfectly. Just then, Sophie cleared her throat softly behind them, a reminder that they weren't alone in this moment but also an invitation for transparency among all three of them. "I think it's important for all of us to be honest about our feelings," Sophie said gently but assertively. "We're friends first and foremost, and friends should always support each other." Ethan nodded slowly while keeping his gaze locked on Liam's face, searching for reassurance amidst their tangled emotions. "I agree," Liam replied quietly but earnestly as he turned towards Sophie too, his vulnerability evident in every word spoken now without hesitation or fear holding back anymore. As they stood together on that balcony under the stars, three friends navigating uncharted territory, they realized they were all seeking connection in different ways, each one yearning for authenticity while grappling with fears that threatened to hold them back from true happiness. In that moment of honesty shared among them all, Ethan felt lighter than air, ready finally not just for acceptance but also for love, whatever form it may take moving forward into this new chapter together. The night air was cool against Ethan's skin as he stood on the balcony with Liam and Sophie, the weight of their shared confessions hanging in the air like a delicate thread. The sounds of laughter and music from the party inside felt distant, almost like a separate world. In this moment, they were cocooned in their own reality, one that was filled with unspoken truths and newfound possibilities. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling a mix of exhilaration and apprehension. "So, what now?" he asked, breaking the silence that had settled among them. His heart raced as he looked from Liam to Sophie, both of whom wore expressions of hope and uncertainty. Liam stepped forward slightly, his eyes earnest. "I think we need to talk about what this means for us," he said, his voice steady but soft. "I don't want to hide my feelings anymore. I want us to be honest with each other." Sophie nodded in agreement, her expression supportive. "I feel the same way. We've been dancing around our feelings for too long. It's time to be real." Ethan felt a surge of emotion at their words. This was what he had been yearning for, a chance to explore the depths of their connections without fear or hesitation. "I agree," he said, his voice gaining strength. "I want to be open about how I feel too." Liam's gaze softened as he looked at Ethan. "You know I care about you deeply, right? You're not just my brother, you're my best friend." Ethan felt warmth spread through him at those words. "I know," he replied, his heart swelling with affection. "And I care about you too, more than I ever realized until now." Sophie watched them with a knowing smile, sensing the bond between the brothers deepening in this moment of honesty. "And what about us?" she asked gently, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Ethan took a step closer to her, feeling a rush of courage. "Sophie, you bring so much light into my life. I've had feelings for you for a while now but didn't know how to express them." He paused, searching her eyes for understanding. "I want to explore where this could go." Sophie's smile widened, and Ethan felt a rush of relief mixed with excitement as she responded. "I'm so glad you said that. I've felt the same way but didn't know if you noticed me like that." Her cheeks flushed slightly as she spoke, and Ethan couldn't help but grin back at her. Liam stepped back slightly, allowing Ethan and Sophie their moment but still remaining present in this pivotal conversation. "This is great," he said encouragingly. "You two deserve to be happy together." Ethan looked at Liam and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for his brother's support. "And what about us?" he asked again, turning back to Liam with sincerity in his voice. Liam took a deep breath, clearly gathering his thoughts. "I think we need to redefine our relationship too," he said slowly. "Whatever that looks like moving forward, whether it's just being brothers or exploring something deeper, I'm open to it." Ethan felt a wave of relief wash over him. It was as if a burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He reached out and placed a hand on Liam's shoulder, squeezing it gently. "Thank you for being honest with me," he said earnestly. As they stood there together under the stars, three friends navigating the complexities of love and connection, Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of hope for the future. They were embarking on an uncharted journey together, one filled with possibilities and challenges alike. "Let's take this one step at a time," Sophie suggested brightly, breaking the tension that had built up around them. "We can figure it out as we go along." "Agreed," Liam replied with a nod, his expression softening as he looked at both Ethan and Sophie. With newfound clarity among them all, they decided to head back inside where the party continued in full swing. As they re-entered the lively atmosphere filled with laughter and music once more, Ethan felt lighter than air, ready to embrace whatever came next. Throughout the rest of the evening, they mingled with friends while stealing glances at each other filled with unspoken promises and excitement for what lay ahead. The night unfolded like a beautiful tapestry woven with laughter and connection, a celebration not just of friendship but also of love in its many forms. As the party began to wind down and guests started saying their goodbyes, Ethan found himself standing next to Sophie by the door while Liam chatted with Jake nearby. "Tonight was amazing," Sophie said softly, her eyes shining in the dim light. "It really was," Ethan agreed wholeheartedly. He hesitated for a moment before leaning closer to her. I'm really glad we talked. Me too, she replied softly before glancing over at Liam and Jake, who were still engaged in conversation. Ethan felt a rush of courage once more. This was his chance to take that next step forward without hesitation. He leaned in slightly closer to Sophie and whispered, "Can I kiss you?" Sophie's eyes widened slightly in surprise but then sparkled with delight as she nodded eagerly. With that silent agreement hanging in the air between them, Ethan leaned in gently and pressed his lips against hers, a soft yet electrifying connection that sent shivers down his spine. It was everything he had imagined and more, a moment filled with promise and hope for what lay ahead. As they pulled away from each other, both smiling shyly yet excitedly, Ethan glanced over at Liam, who caught his eye from across the room, a knowing smile spreading across his brother's face that spoke volumes without needing words. In that moment, surrounded by friends, the laughter echoing around them like music, Ethan knew they were all embarking on something beautiful together, a journey filled with love, friendship, and endless possibilities waiting just beyond the horizon.